Objective of Zakat. The objective of Zakah can be determined from its very name. The root of the word Zakah in Arabic has two meanings, purity and growth. It thus means the wealth given in the way of God to obtain purity of heart. It is evident from this that the objective of Zakah is the same as that of the whole of Islam. It cleanses the soul from the stains that can soil it because of love for wealth, infuses blessings in the wealth, and is instrumental in increasing the purity of the human soul. Zakah is the minimum financial obligation on a person of spending his wealth in the way of God. Thus, it does not win what spending in the way of God beyond it wins. However, merely paying zakah is enough to attach a person's heart with the Almighty, and this greatly does away with the indifference to the Almighty which so often comes in a person because of love for his world and its resources. In the words of the Prophet Jesus, "For wherever your treasure is, your heart will also be." The Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter number 6, verse 21. This claim needs no arguments. One can experience it by spending his wealth any time in the way of God. The Quran has stated this objective of zakah in the following very appropriate words. خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا. O Prophet, take zakah from their wealth in order to purify them with it. Surah number 9, verse 103. At another place, the words of the Quran are, وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن زَكَاةٍ تُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُضْعِفُونَ. And that which you give as zakah, seeking God's countenance, it is these people who will increase their wealth in the hereafter. Surah number 30, verse 39. Shariah of zakah. Irrespective of the differences of the jurists in understanding the concept of zakah, if the details of this directive which have reached us through the consensus of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and their practical adherents, and which now stand validated to the consensus of the Ummah, are studied as regards their basis in the Sharia, then they can be stated as 1. Nothing except the following are exempt from zakah. A. Tools of production, trade and business. B. Personal items of daily use. C. A fixed quantity called nisab. Zakah shall be collected annually on wealth of all sorts, livestock of all types, and produce of all forms of every Muslim citizen who is liable to it. 2. Following are its rates. A. On wealth, 2.5% annually. B. On produce, 5% on all items which are produced by the interaction of both labor and capital, 10% on items which are produced such that the basic factor in producing them is either labor or capital, 20% on items which are neither produced as a result of capital nor labor, but actually are a gift of God. C. On livestock, camels, from 5 to 24 camels, 1 she-goat on every 5 camels. From 25 to 35 camels, 1 one-year-old she-camel, or in its absence, 1 two-year-old camel. From 36 to 45 camels, 1 two-year-old she-camel. From 46 to 60 camels, 1 three-year-old she-camel. From 61 to 75 camels, 1 four-year-old she-camel. From 76 to 90 camels, 2 two-year-old she-camels. From 91 to 120 camels, 2 three-year-old she-camels. Over 120 camels, 1 two-year-old she-camel on every 40 camels, and 1 three-year-old on every 50 camels. Cows, 1 one-year-old calf on every 30 cows, and 1 two-year-old calf on every 40 cows. Goats, from 40 to 120 goats, 1 she-goat. From 121 to 200 goats, 2 she-goats. From 201 to 300 goats, 3 she-goats. Over 300 goats, 1 she-goat on every 100 goats. 3. The heads in which zakah is to be spent were never unclear. It was always spent on the poor and the needy and on the collective requirements of the Muslims. However, when the hypocrites in the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ raised certain doubts about these heads, the Quran unequivocally stated them thus: إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وبن السبيل فريضة من الله والله عليم حكيم. Zakah is only for the poor and the needy, and for those who are amils over it, and for those whose hearts are to be reconciled to the truth, and for the emancipation of the slaves, and for those who have been inflicted with losses, and for the way of God, and for the welfare of the wayfarers. This is an obligation decreed by God, and God is all-knowing, wise. Surah number 9, verse 60. Here are some details of the heads of zakah mentioned in this verse. A. Al-Fuqara wal-Masakin, or the poor and the needy. B. Al-Amilina alayha, the salaries of all employees of the state. C. Al-Mu'allafati qulubuhum, all political expenditures in the interest of Islam and the Muslims. D. Fir riqab, for liberation from slavery of all kinds. E. Al-Gharimin, for helping people who are suffering economic losses or are burdened with a fine or a loan. F. Fi sabilillah, for serving Islam and for the welfare of the citizens. G. Ibn as-Sabil, for helping travelers and for the construction of roads, bridges, and rest houses for these travelers. 4. One form of zakah is the sadaqah of fitr. It is the food of a person that he consumes in a day and is obligatory on every person, whether young or old, and is given at the end of Ramadan before the Eid prayer is offered. As per a narrative of Ibn Abbas radhiyallahu anhu, the purpose of the Prophet in making this mandatory for every Muslim was to cleanse the fast from the effects of lewd and nonsensical talk and to provide food to the poor on Eid day. In the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, it was generally given in the form of grain. Consequently, he had fixed its quantity at 1 sa, which is equivalent to about 2.5 kilograms. It is recorded in a hadith thus: the Prophet ﷺ has regarded the sadaqah of fitr as obligatory on every Muslim. It is 1 sa of dates or 1 sa of barley for every individual, whether he is a free man or a slave, man or a woman, old or young, and directed Muslims that it should be paid before people go out for the prayer. Al-Bukhari, Al-Jami as-Sahih, pages 244 and 245, hadith number 1503. If a state takes zakah from its Muslim citizens, then there will be those who would collect it and those who would pay it. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has given advice to both. Those who pay it should try to please collectors who come to them, even if they are subjected to some excesses, and the collectors should not embezzle the money. Moreover, they should not try to extract the best things owned in wealth and should save themselves from the prayer of the oppressed, because there is no barrier between it and the Almighty. This is all as far as the Shariah regarding zakah is concerned. However, since there exist some general misconceptions about it, the following points must remain in consideration. Firstly, there is no basis in the Quran and Sunnah for the condition of tamlik, or personal possession, imposed by our jurists. Therefore, just as zakah can be given in the personal possession of an individual, it can also be spent on projects of his welfare. Secondly, the reason for the Prophet's prohibition for receiving zakah for himself was that a portion from the fair wealth was reserved for him and his family. This portion remained reserved for this purpose for a long period after him. However, such an arrangement could not have been forever, nor was there any need for it to be forever. Consequently, the needs of the indigent and the poor of the Banu Hashim can now also be fulfilled without any hesitation with the zakah money. Thirdly, a state can exempt certain things from zakah, keeping in view the circumstances. It also has the authority to fix a statutory exemption, or nisab, on things on which it collects zakah. For this purpose, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ fixed a nisab for it in wealth, produce, and livestock. This nisab is as follows. In wealth, it is 5 uqyas, which is 642 grams of silver. In produce, it is 5 wasaqs, which is 650 kilograms of dates. In livestock, it is 5 camels, 30 cows, 40 goats. He is reported to have said, "There is no zakah below 5 wasaqs of dates, there is no zakah below 5 uqyas of silver, and there is no zakah below 5 camels." Malik ibn Anas, Al-Mu'atta, pages 156 and 157, hadith number 683. Fourthly, if the basis of the directive is taken in consideration, industrial produce of all forms, production of all forms based on various skills, rent, salaries, and fees of all forms obtained in various ventures must be classified as produce and not as wealth. Therefore, the zakah imposed on them should be based on the rates specified by the Shariah for land produce. Fifthly, according to the above-mentioned principle, zakah on leased-out houses, properties, and other rented items should be that which is levied on produce, and if they are not rented out, its rate should be that which is levied on wealth.